Most advice about recovering your confidence after a bad job is built on a false premise. It assumes confidence is something you misplaced and can pick back up with affirmations, posture exercises, and a new wardrobe. After years inside a workplace that damaged you, confidence is not something you misplaced. It was disassembled in small doses, through repetition, through humiliation that arrived in measured pieces, through being praised one week and undermined the next. Your judgment did not disappear, it was corroded. Every call you made was rewritten, mocked, ignored, or used as proof that you were never qualified for the job you were already doing. So when someone tells you to fix this by writing notes on a mirror, your body refuses. Your body already understands the difference between genuine repair and cosmetic repair, and it refuses to perform the cosmetic version for an audience. If you have spent years in a hostile workplace, you already recognize the symptoms. You open your inbox and feel a drop of dread before any specific email loads. You rehearse simple conversations in your head, sometimes for days. You feel guilty resting on weekends. You receive a compliment and immediately scan for what is being asked of you next. You request permission for decisions that used to be automatic. You shrink in meetings because speaking up once cost you more than it should have. A 4-word message from your manager arrives, and your body responds as if a verdict is being delivered. You explain ordinary choices in long paragraphs because over-explaining once protected you. You wait for punishment after a small mistake, even when no one has signaled it. You distrust praise because praise was once the opening sentence of a request that wore you down. This is conditioning. This is what your environment trained into your behavior. What you now call your personality is, in many cases, the residue of that training. And this is where people get trapped. They leave the job, but keep obeying the training. The job ended, the conditioning did not. You are not healing if your old manager still gets a vote inside your head. The most dangerous part of staying too long in a hostile workplace happens after years. You stay long enough to normalize disrespect. You adapt so well you forget the adaptation is happening. The company becomes your mirror. You start treating their opinion of you as the verdict of the market. You walk out of the building and discover, months later, that you are still repeating their judgment in your own voice and calling it self-awareness. The goal here is not to make you loud, performative, or arrogant. The goal is to help you stop mistaking fear for humility and stop mistaking your trained reflexes for who you actually are. Before going into the actual repair, you have to understand the terrain. You are repairing 3 different layers, and each one heals through different inputs. Mental confidence is your ability to trust your own judgment again, to make a call without dragging it through the courtroom in your head, to form an opinion without checking it against 3 external sources first. Emotional confidence is your ability to stay regulated when someone is displeased, distant, critical, or vague. A hostile workplace trains your body to treat someone else's mood like a weather warning. Recovery means learning that another person can be annoyed without your whole nervous system reporting an emergency. Professional confidence is your belief that your skills, decisions, and contributions still hold value in the market. Years of being told otherwise can convince you that you are lucky to be employed at all and that asking for more is delusional. You cannot rebuild all 3 with one affirmation poster. Each one was damaged differently. Each one needs different inputs to come back. What follows is specific repair, and the order recovery actually happens. The first repair is to stop calling the damage your personality. When people leave hostile workplaces, they often walk out wearing a false identity stitched together from survival adaptations. They describe themselves as anxious, sensitive, indecisive, bad at handling pressure, weak communicators, overthinkers, not leadership material, people who cannot trust themselves anymore. These descriptions feel accurate because they describe real behavior. The behavior was a response to the environment. It was not the original wiring. If one mistake in your old job became public humiliation, overthinking became a defensive system. If expectations changed every few weeks, over-explaining became your method for surviving the next reversal. If asking questions was treated as incompetence, silence became the safer option. If competence was rewarded by being given more uncompensated work, hiding your capacity became logical economic behavior. If boundaries created tension with the person who controlled your performance review, people-pleasing became damage control rather than a personality trait. You are not naturally indecisive. You worked in a place where decisions were second-guessed and punished after the fact, so you learned to delay until you could no longer be blamed. You are not weak. You spent years calculating how to avoid unnecessary conflict because conflict was disproportionately expensive for you specifically. You are not bad at speaking up. You were trained that speaking up came with consequences other people did not face when they did the same thing. You are not lazy. Your nervous system learned to associate work with threat, and exhaustion is what a threatened nervous system produces after years of vigilance. Naming the damage accurately is the first repair. You cannot fix something you are still calling by the wrong name. Some of you are not lacking confidence. You are still trying to be safe in a room you already escaped. The second repair is evidence, not affirmations, evidence. After years of being diminished, slogans do not work because your brain already has too much counter-programming. Telling yourself you are capable does not survive contact with the memory of being told otherwise 500 times by someone whose opinion controlled your livelihood. You have to overwhelm the counter-programming with proof. Build a confidence evidence file, a real one, a document, a notebook, a folder, somewhere your brain cannot edit it later. In it, you record projects you completed, problems you solved, positive feedback you received from anyone, difficult situations you survived, skills you learned without anyone teaching you, clients or colleagues you helped, deadlines you met under conditions other people did not see, moments you stayed professional under pressure, moments you protected yourself, moments you made good decisions while afraid. A hostile workplace distorts your record in predictable ways. It magnifies your mistakes and stores them in vivid detail. It minimizes your wins and treats them as one-offs. It treats your ordinary competence as invisible because it expects everything from you and acknowledges nothing. The result is that you remember every criticism with photographic accuracy and forget years of survival, output, and contribution. You cannot rebuild self-trust while letting your worst workplace experience remain the only historian of your career. Make 3 lists inside your evidence file: what I survived, what I achieved, what I learned about myself. Add to it weekly. Read it when the old conditioning starts speaking again. This is not journaling. This is forensic reconstruction. You are gathering admissible evidence against the version of you the old system installed. Confidence does not mean believing you never failed. It means being able to remember the full record instead of only the version a damaged environment chose to preserve. The third repair is to stop measuring yourself by the rules of a sick room. Inside a healthy workplace, the scoreboard tracks useful things: good work, clear communication, growth, contribution other people can rely on. Inside a sick room, the scoreboard tracks something else. The people who rise are the ones who flatter power, claim credit they did not earn, avoid accountability, perform busyness instead of producing results, win through politics, agree to anything, and make themselves useful to whichever senior person needs an ally. If you spent years not thriving in a place like that, the shame you carry is misallocated. The harder question is whether you were actually failing, or whether you were being judged by rules that rewarded the wrong behaviors and punished the right ones. If promotions went to the most politically convenient candidate, your lack of promotion is evidence about who that company chose to reward, not clean evidence about your value. If burnout was treated as proof of commitment, your exhaustion was an injury caused by an environment that mistook self-destruction for dedication. If credit was stolen, your invisibility is not proof there was nothing to take. If boundaries were punished, your guilt for setting them is not evidence the boundaries were wrong. Maybe you were not bad at work. Maybe you were bad at converting cruelty into a promotion strategy. Maybe the scoreboard was corrupt at its foundation, and continuing to use it now to evaluate your own worth is what keeps the damage active long after you have left the building. You cannot rebuild self-trust while still using your worst employer as the judge. One of the dirtiest things a hostile workplace does is teach you to fear feedback before you even hear it. By the time you leave, you have stopped being able to tell the difference between feedback and conditioning because the two were used interchangeably against you for years. Now you may react to ordinary professional situations as if you are still inside the danger. A short email reads as anger. A delayed reply reads as rejection. A manager asking a clarifying question reads as accusation. A meeting invite without context reads as punishment in advance. Constructive feedback reads as humiliation. Real feedback is specific. It is connected to a behavior, not to your identity. It is aimed at improvement. It does not depend on shifting goalposts. You can disagree with it and still have a working relationship with the person who delivered it. Conditioning sounds different. You always mess things up. Everyone is disappointed in you. You should already know this by now. You are lucky to even be here. Why are you so difficult to work with? You need to be more of a team player, where a team player means tolerate exploitation. None of that is feedback. That is shaping behavior through fear. The recovery question you have to start asking is whether something is real feedback or whether an old wound is reacting to a familiar pattern. Slow your reply. Ask what was actually said. What behavior is being addressed? What action would resolve it? If the criticism survives that filter, take it seriously. If it does not, you are responding to ghosts. You are allowed to receive feedback without handing your entire identity over to it. The fifth repair is rebuilding judgment through small decisions. Hostile workplaces destroy decision-making in a specific way. When every decision you make is criticized after the fact, rewritten by someone with less context, ignored until it fails, or punished as evidence of your bad judgment, you learn to outsource your judgment to anyone who will take it. You start asking permission for things you used to handle alone. You delay simple tasks, waiting for confirmation that never comes. You rewrite 4-line messages a dozen times. You begin to fear being wrong more than you value being clear, because being wrong in your old environment was a verdict. Judgment is a muscle. If a workplace punished you for using it, the muscle has not disappeared. It has been forced into disuse. You rebuild it gradually with low-stakes reps. Choose the order of your tasks today without asking anyone. Send a message without rewriting it 12 times. State a preference at lunch without explaining why. Make a recommendation in a meeting without prefacing it with 3 apologies. Decide that the work you finished is good enough and stop polishing it. Set one small boundary and refuse to apologize for it afterward. The perfection trap is what keeps people stuck here. A hostile workplace can convince you that a decision is only valid if nobody criticizes it. Confident people do not operate that way. They make a decision, watch the result, learn what is useful, and remain intact whether the result is good or bad. Self-trust returns when you stop treating every decision like a courtroom where your entire worth is on trial. Pause here because this is the part people misunderstand. Recovery does not mean pretending the workplace did not hurt you. Recovery means refusing to let the workplace keep managing you after you have left. If your old manager can still make you shrink through memory alone, the job ended, but the training did not. At some point, you have to admit that you are no longer protecting yourself. You are protecting the version of the workplace that still lives inside you. Every time you over-explain, you are doing the work the old system used to do for free. Every time you apologize for a normal need, you are doing unpaid PR for the people who trained you to feel guilty for having one. Every time you check yourself before saying something true, you are letting them edit your sentences from a distance. You do not owe that institution another minute of unpaid mental labor. The next half of this video is about taking that labor back. Now we need to talk about the apology reflex, because this is where damaged self-trust leaks out in public. A hostile workplace teaches you that your humanity is an inconvenience, so you start apologizing for it. You apologize for needing rest, for asking clarifying questions, for taking lunch, for logging off at your contracted end time, for not replying to messages within minutes, for being sick, for needing time to think before answering, for saying no, for refusing to absorb someone else's poor planning, for having a life outside the building. The damage is in how you have been trained to frame your own needs, as failures of professionalism, as character defects, as inconveniences you owe the room an apology for. The workplace benefits from this framing. Guilt is one of the cheapest tools for extracting more labor from people who already have nothing left to give. The repair is in your language. Instead of writing, "Sorry, I am just wondering if maybe we could clarify the deadline," write, "Can you confirm the deadline for this?" Instead of writing, "Sorry, I will not be able to stay late tonight," write, "I am not available after 5 today." Instead of writing, "Sorry for the delay," when the reply is not actually late, write, "Thanks for your patience." Instead of writing, "Sorry to bother you," write, "I have a question when you have a moment." This is adult, not rude. Every unnecessary apology you send teaches your own brain that your presence is a problem and your needs are negotiations. After enough years, that pattern stops being a habit and becomes a self-image. You do not recover confidence while narrating your normal needs like crimes. The seventh repair is rebuilding your voice in low-risk spaces first. The advice to just speak up in meetings is useless if you are coming out of an environment where speaking up cost you something for years. Your voice did not vanish because you decided to be timid. It went underground because using it was repeatedly expensive. You will not get it back by walking into the highest stakes room of your career and trying to be bold. You get it back by practicing in places where the cost of being heard is low. Disagree out loud during a casual conversation with a friend. State a preference in a small team chat where the stakes are negligible. Write a short note expressing an opinion in a professional community. Take a one-on-one meeting and use it to make one direct statement instead of 3 hedged ones. The phrases you can practice are short. "I see it differently." "I need more context before I answer." "That timeline is not realistic." "I am not comfortable with that approach." "Here is my recommendation." "I need to think about this before I respond." "No, I cannot take that on right now." There is a temptation while doing this work that you should know about. Some people leave hostile workplaces and decide they will fight everyone in the next room they walk into. They go from invisible to combative in one motion and call that recovery. What looks like confidence in that mode is the old wound learning to wear armor and calling itself growth. Some people confuse recovery with becoming harsh, suspicious, and impossible to correct. They become difficult on purpose because difficult feels safer than open. They reject feedback before it arrives because feedback used to be dangerous. They treat every disagreement like an attack. That posture protects nothing. It just changes which version of you the old system gets to keep. The goal is to become steady, audible, and hard to push around. Not louder, not harder, steadier. Your voice does not need to come back as a weapon. It can come back as a boundary. The eighth repair is replacing hypervigilance with clear standards. Years inside a hostile workplace can leave you in a state of constant scanning. You read tone in every email, you watch faces in every meeting, you analyze how long someone took to reply, you catalog who was invited to what. You build threat models out of small inputs and run them in the background, even on weekends. This was not paranoia inside the old environment. It was useful intelligence. Outside that environment, it becomes a tax on your peace and a corrosive force on your self-trust. Hypervigilance is not the same as wisdom, even when it feels intelligent. It is pattern recognition trained on a sample size of one bad system. The answer is not to become naive, because naive people get used. The answer is to replace fear-based scanning with standards. Stop asking, are they angry at me? Am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? Is this about me? Are they trying to push me out? Start asking, what was actually said in the message, not what tone did I imagine? What is the pattern across multiple interactions? What evidence do I actually have? What standard do I hold for how I should be treated here? What action is required from me, if any? A manager sends, "Can we talk tomorrow?" and your whole body starts preparing for a trial. The old response is rumination, mental rehearsal of every possible accusation, and 12 hours of pre-grief. The new response is, "I do not have evidence of danger yet. I will prepare the relevant facts, ask for clarity if needed, and respond based on what is actually discussed." Confidence is not assuming everyone is safe. Confidence is knowing you can evaluate reality without immediately abandoning yourself. The ninth repair is reconnecting with competence outside the workplace that broke you. The trap is psychological captivity. The same room that starved you of self-trust also convinced you it was the only place where your competence could be measured. They underrate you. Then they make their rating feel like the market's verdict. After years of that, you forget there is a market outside their conference room. A hostile workplace narrows your identity until your only proof of being capable comes from inside the building. You stop growing because you are spending all your energy on survival. You stop experimenting because experiments invite criticism. You stop taking pride in skill because every display of skill is appropriated or used against you. You start to forget what you are actually good at because the only feedback you receive is filtered through people who benefit from underrating you. The repair is to start building proof in places where your old workplace has no jurisdiction. Take a short course in something adjacent to your work. Build a portfolio of finished things you can show to anyone. Take on one freelance project, even a small one. Mentor someone earlier in their career. Update your resume, not because you are leaving, but because the act of writing it forces you to remember what you have actually done. Revisit a skill you stopped practicing. Start a personal project with a deliverable. Volunteer in a professional capacity for an organization unrelated to your job. The damaged frame says, "This job is the final judge of me. This manager's opinion is the truth about my value. This company's treatment of me reflects what I am worth in the market." That frame is a cage built out of one company's opinion of you. A workplace is not the full economy. A manager is not the entire profession. A team that treated you badly is not a representative sample of the world that exists outside their conference rooms. Sometimes your confidence does not come back inside the room that broke it. Sometimes it comes back when you build proof somewhere that room cannot touch. The final repair, and the most important one, is building a new relationship with power, boundaries, and exit options. The deepest version of recovered self-trust comes from knowing you are no longer trapped the way you were before. A hostile workplace creates dependencies in every direction it can reach. Financial dependency through a salary you cannot afford to lose. Emotional dependency through approval you have started to need. Identity dependency because the role has become how you describe yourself. Career dependency because leaving feels like starting over. Visa or location dependency where that applies. Fear of being seen as difficult by future employers. Fear of explaining the gap on your resume. Every one of those dependencies makes confidence fragile. Confidence built on top of dependency is borrowed confidence. It evaporates the moment the person you depend on becomes hostile. Recovery has to be strategic, not only emotional. You rebuild options, emergency savings, even small, a resume that is current and accurate, a professional network you have actually maintained, not one you ignored for 3 years while the job consumed everything. A documented record of your achievements that lives outside any one company's systems. Boundaries that exist before you need them. Interview standards that include questions you ask the employer instead of only answering theirs. A skill stack broader than what your current role asks of you. A side income where it is realistic. A working knowledge of your employment rights. A list of warning signs you will not ignore again the next time someone tries to recruit you into a similar environment. A refusal to confuse loyalty with self-erasure. You can do all the inner repair in the world, but if you walk into your next workplace with no boundaries, no documentation, no exit plan, and no standards, your confidence stays fragile because your safety still depends on whether the people in charge happen to be decent that quarter. The real confidence is the knowledge that if they mistreat you, you will see it earlier, document it cleaner, respond faster, protect yourself sooner, and leave before you become unrecognizable to yourself. Recovered confidence is not the belief that no one can hurt you again. It is the knowledge that you will never again confuse surviving mistreatment with proving your worth. Confidence after years of damage will not return as one dramatic feeling. It will not arrive as a single moment where you finally believe in yourself again, with music and a clear forehead. It returns in smaller and more accurate ways. You send an email without rewriting it for an hour. You say no without producing a paragraph of justification. You trust your first read of a situation instead of running it through 6 other people. You apply for a role without assuming before you have read the description that you are unqualified. You accept a compliment without immediately deflecting it. You rest without feeling watched. You recognize a red flag earlier than you would have before. You leave a room that requires you to disappear in order to belong. You are not trying to become the person you were before any of this happened. That person is not coming back, and you do not need them to. The version of you on the other side of this work is more dangerous to bad systems than the original ever was. This version understands what was done, refuses to carry shame that belongs to the environment, knows how to protect a mind, a record, a boundary, and a future because those things have already been lost once and the loss is now visible. Your confidence did not collapse because you were weak. It was negotiated out of you, slowly, by an environment that benefited from your self-doubt and could not have extracted what it extracted from you if you had been confident the entire time. Recovery is about becoming accurate about what actually happened, accurate about what you contributed before they rewrote the record, accurate about what was unfair, regardless of who told you it was normal, accurate about what you need now in order to function as a full person, accurate about what you will never agree to tolerate again, even if the next offer is dressed in better clothes. That is the work, and it is enough.